Okay. Joyce Guest Decker Wegner. July, I don't even know what today is.
Today's 16th?
July 16th, 2022.
Yeah.
In our old neighborhood at Shakespeare and Sherwood Street. Okay, Mom, you weren't born in this house, but when did you move into it?
I came over here in the 6th grade.
6th grade.
I went to the Willard School for 1st grade through 5th grade, and then we moved over here.
Take your glasses off for a minute. There you go. You look cool, but we can't see your eyes. There you go. Okay.
This is home.
This is your neighborhood.
Yeah. No gates.
Lowell Elementary.
Lowell Elementary School, one of the earliest schools in Missoula.
And this is where you grew up as a kid over here.
This is where my father was born.
Your father was born there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don Guest to Verna and John Guest. He was their 3rd child. They lost their first baby at birth, and then they moved over on the other side on Phillips Street in 1911. And by 1915, Dad was born here.
Okay.
August 27th, 1915. And his grandparents lived in this house here on Sherwood. This house's history goes back a long time, because this house, the maintenance people for the school lived here, and they were just building Lowell, parts of Lowell School on. It stopped at this end, and then they built on this other addition to this school. But the school was here in 1911.
Oh, the school was built in 1911. Okay.
Yeah.
And then did you go to, what grades did you go to here?
I went to school here from 5th grade on.
5th grade on.
5th grade through 8th grade.
5th grade.
They didn't have kindergarten those days, and so there were 11 grade schools in Missoula at that time, and they all ran from 1st grade through 8th grade. In those 7th and 8th grade years, we competed all against each other in sports in these schools.
Oh.
But this was my house. Oh gosh, it feels funny. Yeah. Now, this was the parkway. The teachers, a lot of them used to park along the street here. And this was a parkway here, and there was no, there was a big tree here, right here, that had been cut off, and I don't ever remember seeing it, but there was a huge stump. And when Bobby was born, he was 4 years younger than I was, Grandpa, my great-grandfather, Wegner, he was rocking Bobby out on this stump in a rocking chair, and Bobby smiled that morning. He was just a baby, and so that was some of my memories of my great-grandfather. But his health started to decline, and then from here, like I say, this was kind of the driveway. We parked right along here, and there was a gate, kind of a metal gate, like that gate right there, over there, that fence over there. But it was about this high, and it ran all around the yard. And so there was a gate here, and there was a gate up front there.
I remember this house being white.
The house was white.
Yeah.
It was white. This has been added on. There was just a kitchen here, and we entered. There was a little old porch right along here, and there was a garage back here. Dad's garage was here, and then there were some a wood shed attached, and an outhouse, and another little outbuilding out there. And then my grandparents had gardens both alongside of their sidewalks that went from the door. That's about where the door was, but there was a little porch there. This tree, this is one of those beautiful lilac trees. This is old, it was here, and it was those French lilacs, so we decorated with that all the time.
Okay.
And then we had a garden flowers all along the fence. And Grandma raised peonies. They were great gardeners, but Mom wasn't.
Was this house there? Was this house there?
But this was our garage, so this was all our property. And I think every kid on the west side, we had supper parties in that part of the yard. By the time we lived here, we didn't move here until I was in the started the sixth grade, and had been still when my grandparents lived here, it was all an outhouse. But by the time Grandma died, after Grandpa had died right shortly when Bobby was born in '48, and then Grandma lived, I think, till 1952, my great-grandparents.
So
And after she died, we started to rent the house out. They left it to Mom, the house to Mom, even though they were Dad's grandparents, they left it to Mom and for us kids. And then it had an outhouse. And when we lost our home on Rollins, and we did lose it, Dad, we lost the property over there and moved over here with 5 kids in this little 24 by 24 house. That's all the bigger it was.
So who all lived in this house? So your mother raised 5 kids.
All 5 of us.
Okay,
Here
so
with
your mother
Dad.
is full name on your mom?
My mom is Margaret Elizabeth Chesley, yes.
Raised Donald.
Yeah, but Dad, who this is his grandparents' home. His name's Donald Dale Guest.
Okay.
And they had Donnie and me.
Donald what? Yeah.
Donald Chesley Guest.
Donald Chesley Guest.
Then
He was the
Helen-
oldest.
He was born 1940.
Okay.
And Joyce, Helen Joyce Guest, was born in '43. And Patricia Margaret Guest was born in '44. And Robert Paul Guest, named after my dad's brother, Paul was his name. And they all lived in this house here, Paul and Dad, when we were little, because that's where Dad was born.
And then Jim.
And then Jimmy Guest was born on Rollins Street also, but he wasn't in school yet when we moved over here.
Okay.
So
Okay.
we moved here when I was in the 5th grade, which, I would have been 11,
Okay.
10 or 11, right in that age.
Okay.